Welcome to Shomach Shav on the Dash. Your sponsor, Lui Nishmas Ambiak Shalom Lea Pasitzchok. We're holding Basra Daf Kufrun Zayin. The Gemara towards the end of Amud Beis brings that Rav Ashi had two Mahaduras, two versions of his learning, Mahadura Kama and Mahadura Basra. In Mahadura Kama he said Rishon Kana, that was the psak, and Mahadura Basra he said Yachloiku. Now what is Mahadura Kama and Mahadura Basra of Rav Ashi? The Rashbam says that when he was chayzer his Talmudoi Pam Shniyo, he chazed his learning twice. Why? So he brings the name of Tshuvas Rav Hai and Rabbeinu Chananel. The Rav Ashi, the Girsa by us says Rav Ashi lived 60 years, but the Magim already fixed it. It's not fixed 60 years, but for 60 years he was Rosh Hashiva. And every year he chazed his learning in the months of Nisan and Tishrei. Every 30 years he finished one machzor, one cycle. So by 60 years he did two cycles. Now what's shot that he finished exactly in 30 years? So this is brought down in Igeris of Shri Ragoyin and Oiskuf Dalet. He explains that there's 60 mesechtes in Shas, Shishi mesechtes, and every one of these Yarchikalo, Nisan and Tishrei, they did one mesechta. So in 30 years he did 60 mesechtes. And after 60 years he did two cycles. That's the reason every cycle of learning took 30 years. 2 mesechtes a year brings you to 60 mesechtes. That's the entire Shas. Rav Ashi did the cycle twice, and that's the two versions of Rav Ashi's learning. Now Rav Shaya Pik, in the Hagdama to the Sefer She'ilas Shalom, says, he says the name of the Rashbam. Really, we don't really have it farish in the Rashbam, but based on what the Rashbam says, based on what Shirei Goyen, is that it comes out there's 60 mesechtes in Shas. But the problem is, the Rambam says in the Hagdama to Zroim that there's 61 mesechtes in Shas, not 60. So the Chasam Sofer in Koivitz Tshuvas Siman Samech Daled answers it, and he says that if you look at the Rambam carefully, the Rambam brings, why is it 60 mesechtes? Because Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, and Bava Basra, all three are considered to be one mesechta, which is called Meseches Nezikin. And there is some that hold that Sanhedrin and Makis is one mesechta. So according, if you take these two sheets together, put Bava Kama, Bava Metzia, Bava Basra together, and Sanhedrin and Makis together, then you have exactly 60 mesechtes. And Ayin Shadach has a sefer that brings another version that holds the 63 mesechtes, and the simon to remember it is Yeh Lipcho Gas Bahim. Gas Bahim is Gematria 63. Chazal Sefer goes on to do the cheshbon. How do you get to 63? But Al Koponim, we learn over here that Rav Ashi learned Shas twice. He had two versions of his learning, and he changed his mind in the second time to fix and correct what he did in the first time. And from here we see that in general there's a concept called Mahadura Basra where you fix Mahadura Kama. And this is brought down in many of the stories. We're just going to bring a few examples. The Kinas Seifrim on Sefer Mitzvahs the Rambam in the end of Shoishu Daled. He says sometimes we find contradictions between Sefer Mitzvahs of the Rambam and the Yad HaChazaka of the Rambam. He says that's not a problem. The Yad HaChazaka was written later and the Rambam changed his mind. As we see over here, Mahadura Kama, Mahadura Basra. And he says that's their Chachomim v'nevoinim. Shadaitom mitvasefes aleim kozmat shemaskinim. People get older, they change their mind. So when you have a new Mahadura of the same Mechaber, he could change his mind from his first Mahadura. The Chidah on the Shem HaGedolim, he writes that the Sefer Beis Shmuel, which is written in Even Ezer, what we have is called Mahadura Basra. And there's another Mahadura called Mahadura Kama, which many things were changed from Mahadura Kama to Mahadura Basra. So that's what we follow, what we have in our hand, because the Beis Shmuel changed his mind in many dinim, many halachas. And it's very similar, Reb Shlomo Kluger in his sefer called Kinas Seifrim as well. In the end of the sefer, in the Hashmot, the Simon Chof, he brings someone asked a question. He has a contradiction between two tshuvas in his sefer. So before he answers the question, he says, first of all, this is not a question. I could change my mind, as many of Gedolei Olim change their mind. And he says, you look at the Gemara, it's Mahadura Kama and Mahadura Basra. Rav Ashi himself changed his mind. And he brings the Pri Megadim. He wrote some things in the Sefer Pri Megadim, but in his lifetime, later, after Pri Megadim came out, people asked him some shilas, and he said the opposite of what's written in Pri Megadim. They asked him, what's going on? You're saying different than your Sefer. He says, yes, I learned it better, and I changed my mind. And we'll conclude these Mekoiros with the Tiferes Yisrael, famous Tiferes Yisrael, in Avos Perek base, in Boyaz Ois base. That he says you should know every person who's moitzi a sefer, you should be careful to do a Mahadura Basra to fix and all the mistakes and changes that he has. And he goes on to say that really Shas that we have, the Shas that we have, is Rav Ashi's Mahadura Basra. But there's some Masechtas that they did not do another Mahadura. Which Masechtas is that? It says, Kimedumeli, she Masechtas Nedorim, Nazir, Erchin, Krisus, Tumuro, Me'ilo, and Tomid. These Masechtas, there was no Mahadura Basra, there was no second version. And that's why the Losh of that Masechtas, Enam Kesignoin Shar Hashas. It's a different version. It wasn't written the same way. It wasn't fixed as the Mahadura Basra of the rest of Shas. And the source of this concept called Mahadura Basra we see over here in our Gemara. Anyone who wants to join the Shomachshava email list to WhatsApp, please email shomachshava@gmail.com.